Afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another installment of my mock draft, phantom draft, whatever you want to call it for this year. I'm East Coast Eagle. I've been an avid draft watcher for a long time now. And yeah, I'm here for my installment this year of what is this year's draft class. Just on this year's draft class, I see it as it's an interesting one. I'm probably not as excited about it as I was last year. I thought last year's draft was a lot better than what this one is. I will say that the first 5 picks I think are excellent. There's some great players in that range. And I think those going to those clubs, you'll probably find there'll be some really nice elite players. I think for the rest of the draft, probably through to about 35, 40, there is some really good players in there. They're probably not as strong as what other years have been, particularly after the elite class. It drops away a little bit, but there is a great evenness, I think, personally, from around 6 or 7 right through to about 40. There's not a great deal between the lot in there. Others may disagree with me, but I've seen a lot of under 18 football and a lot of draft classes, and I just don't think this one's as strong as what some of the others are. However, there are, as I mentioned, some good little prospects in here that clubs will still be clamoring for. So I'll jump into it. What I've done is I've tried to see where bids will be matched. So I've gone through and done all of that. But in terms of trading, I haven't attempted any of that because it is really hard to foresee where that might happen. And a lot of the trade period is where a lot of those trades happen. There are a few safe for draft night, but they're kept well under wraps, so I'm not even going to attempt that. Anyway, I'm going to jump into this one straight away. I've gone into the top 20 picks. I've got some images and a bit of an explanation for those, and then I'll fire through to the end of the third round with a bit quicker projection. Also, I've included Port Adelaide, who I think they might include as a late pick there, just because I know they're quite late in the draft. I've tried to cover all clubs, so I've included a pick for Port Adelaide. Anyway, without any further ado, I'll jump into it. Well, no real surprise here. I think West Coast are going to take Harley Reid. He's the best I think I've seen ever come through. I think he's a better prospect than what Matt Rao was coming through. I think he's still got a really high ceiling, and that's probably the reason why. Nick Dacos is the other one that I thought was an exceptional talent coming through, and you could see that through his VFL performances before he got drafted. Harley's went and done a very similar thing in terms of when he played VFL this year, or even playing the academy games. I thought he was absolutely outstanding and a leader. Very strong through the core. I think the first time I saw him was round 2 last year when Bendigo played Geelong. And I thought to myself, who is this kid? He's amazing strength. Just standing up in the tackle and be able to handball as if someone's tackling him, but there was no one there. He just went on and got better and better and better. And I think there's good reason why clubs were trying to trade up to pick one to get him. Exceptional talent. He's got really good versatility in terms of can play in the forward line, midfield, and defence. So he's a match winner, and I think that's right why the Eagles really want to keep pick one to get him. I think this is where a bid will come for Gold Coast Jed Walter, another one that's been strong over 2 years. He's a huge, quick, powerful key forward. And I think if Gold Coast was silly enough not to match the bid, North would be very, very happy because he's exactly what they need. But Gold Coast are invested pretty heavily into him in the last couple of years, so they'll match the bid here. North, I think they'll take Zane Dersma here. Now, Colby McKercher is he's probably the next best ranked player here. But I think North, they've got a pretty heavy stacked midfield. And I think by keeping their first round pick for next year, which is projected to be top 4, and looking at some of the players that are around that mark for next year, I think there's a lot in that sort of caliber of a Colby McKercher. So I think it'll probably be what I've done here is I think it's a bit wiser for North Melbourne to take Zane Dersma here. He's a clever forward. He can go into the midfield, so he's got that versatility, and he's quick and evasive. So I think by having someone here that's sort of in that Bailey Fritsch type model forward will be an excellent pickup for North Melbourne here. They've also been associated with him in recent weeks. They think he'll be a great pick for North. Now, the sort of the second train of thought going on about Colby McKercher and why I did that earlier is I think North should take Daniel Curtin with their second pick. Again, he's got really good versatility. I've seen him play forward, although not as much. And I think where I think he's played his best football has been through the middle of the park or down back. I thought he had a really good contest with Jed Walter in the first game of the championships that they played. Everyone knows the Allies have an exceptional midfield, and the ball was coming in at the rate of knots against the WA side that wasn't very strong. And I thought Daniel Curtin got the better of him, even though Jed Walter kicked 3 goals. Curtin had an outstanding game, I thought, and showed that he could play one-on-one. Obviously, his rebounding and his kicking is elite. So I think he'd be an amazing pickup here, and it really solves by taking Dersma and Curtin, 2 areas of the grounds. But again, they've got versatility to go into the midfield. But as I mentioned, North already have a really strong midfield, and there is next year a group of really highly rated midfielders early in the draft too. So they're not necessarily going to miss out here. By not taking Colby McKercher, they're still getting 2 very elite talents in my eyes. I think the Hawks would love to get Ethan Reid, and they'll put a bid here, but Gold Coast will match this. I think this guy's absolutely outstanding. He's not talked about enough, and it's probably because he's played mostly as a ruck. I think the versatility of this guy, could play centre-half forward, centre-half back. He is an amazing prospect, and I think Gold Coast will definitely match the bid here, probably a little bit earlier than they might expect, but they're not going to let him go. He's an amazing talent. Hawks will take the next best pick, and Colby McKercher sliding just a little bit here. I love this guy. I saw him late last year in the finals for Tassie, and he was breaking away from stoppages and drilling people from that with his laser left foot. I think this guy, he's just had a huge year. He's gone on and he's racking up 30 disposals, kicking goals. And I think his kicking is just outstanding. So Hawks would be not wasting much time to get his bid in, to put him down and take this guy. Doggies, pretty smart. They jumped up the draft order to make sure they didn't waste any of their draft picks to get another talent. Obviously, with Croft a little bit later, they know they're going to match. They're taking the next best player in the draft, and a very, very good midfielder. He's sort of not your hugely damaging midfielder like, say, a Harley Reid or a Colby McKercher. He's more your death by 1,000 cuts. He runs all day really hard. He gets to positions where he can receive the ball and then use it. He's a very, very talented player, and he's just very smart in terms of what he does. So great pickup here for the Doggies. The Wizard, I think, will go then to Melbourne. A great pickup for them. Probably not necessarily the one that they were necessarily hoping for, but I think in terms of his talent, he's a very, very talented footballer, and will be an outstanding prospect for many years to come. Knows where the goals are. He's kicked over 70 this year across the different formats that he's played. So I think him in the forward line for Melbourne will be a very good pickup for them. GWS have an amazing raft of talent on their list, but I think someone with the athletic profile of Connor O'Sullivan would be a great fit here. He's not necessarily your true key defender. He probably plays more as a third tall defender. I think aerially he's not as strong as what other key defenders are, but it's something he could pick up, I guess, as he's going along. He's more your ground ball interceptor, and very good as playing as an outlet out of defence. I think he's very quick to, once they've won the ball back in defence, to spread from the contest to get the ball, then to use it. I think that's where his real strength lies. So he could be a real weapon coming out of the back half, and a great pickup here for GWS. I think with his athletic profile, the ceiling is really high for him. So I think that's where he could end up being one of the better players of this draft class. Nate Caddy, I've got a bit of a funny relationship with this guy, but I think he's sort of like glass half full for me. He didn't really do anything too much at the championships, but then he went to the VFL and had some great games. I think for the Cats here, he'll be a great prospect, sort of that mid-sized forward. And if he really gets it together, it could become one of those strong power forwards in the AFL, and could be an outstanding pickup here for Geelong. I think a power forward will be a nice fit with Hawkins and Cameron sort of in towards getting to the twilight of their careers. Will be a nice prospect with Henry coming along too. I sort of didn't understand the hype with this guy earlier on. I think the Bombers will take James Leake here. But I saw him play through the finals, and I saw him as a defender through the championships. I thought he was a very good defender, but when he went forward, I thought he was absolutely outstanding for Tasmania, and really showed that he's got that versatility to play forward or back and be an absolute weapon. So I think he'll be a really nice pickup here for the Bombers. I've got to pick 12. The Crows taking Caleb Windsor. I'm hearing some little rumours that he could even go in the top 10. Really strong runner, beautiful ball user. He's got speed. I think he'd be a really nice sort of midfielder or outside midfielder for the Crows here. I think Melbourne are going to press the button here on Croft. They'd love another key forward, although they have taken Van Ruin and Jefferson in recent years. I think Croft, with his speed and his ability to run, especially his 2K time trial, was elite for a guy of 200 centimetres. I think he could end up being sort of that Nick Rewalt type running forward, not necessarily the high flying guy, but just using his running power to work a backman over and become an elite forward. Potentially play centre half back too, who knows? But I think he's a great pickup here for the Dogs, and probably been a little bit underrated throughout the year. So the Dogs aren't going to let this go, and they've showed their hand a little bit in terms of trading down to get an earlier pick to get another player, so that they'll take Sanders and Croft away from this draft. D's tough choice to make, but I think someone like a Darcy Wilson, who's just a clever, hard-running midfielder. You can play him at half-back, half-forward. You can put him through the midfield or on a wing. He's got that real versatility about him. But I think I really like his high footy IQ. He's a really smart player, so I think he'll be a really nice pickup for Melbourne, and they can play him sort of where they think he'll fit nicely. Rogers, I think Sydney, they like to sort of press the button and make clubs pay. And I think they'll do this again with Jake Rogers, but it's worthy bid around pick 15. He's an exceptional player, even though he's really small. I think he's just got that burst out of a stoppage. He's got that toughness and tackling about him. I think he'll be a fantastic player. I think he'll start as a forward in AFL career until he builds a little bit more strength to go through the midfield. And when he does that, he'll become an elite clearance player. So Gold Coast has sort of wrapped up 3 very nice players within the top 15. Bit of a shame that they can get 3 within the top 15 where other clubs can't, well, apart from Northerns. But anyway, I won't elaborate on that too much. Swans, they're crying out for a key defender, and I think this guy is the best true key defender in the draft class. Really good one-on-one defending, intercept marking, and I think his ball use is actually quite good too. So I think at 200 centimetres, this guy's going to be that sort of new age key defender, and a great pickup for Sydney here. Saints next with pick 17, and I think they'll take the other academy boy, Colton Folstrup. watched a little bit of him playing in the Waffle late this year, and I thought he was had an exceptional finish to the season. Where I guess his start of the year wasn't as strong, and his championships were a bit up and down. But I think his end of the year form was really good against senior bodies. He was kicking goals and getting a lot of a ball through when playing for Subiaco. So I think he's a great pickup here, and he could slot straight into that Saints side. He'll probably be a little bit in and out next year, but I think that exposure to playing at AFL level, he'll chomp on that, and he'll really be a good prospect within a couple of years. Crows are going to make Hawthorn match a bid here for Will McCabe, outstanding defender, and it will be a great pickup for the Hawks here. If the Hawks take Colby McKercher and McCabe away from this draft, they'll be wrapping their hands together and be really happy about this, I reckon. He's an outstanding player, and one that I think once he goes into the AFL system will be a great player. Somewhat of a draft bolter, but I really like this guy. I probably thought he was the best ruckman through the championships, and something I'd read a little bit about but hadn't seen prior to the championships. And I just think he's got great athleticism. He's obviously his sprint time that he ran at the championships under 3 seconds is elite for a guy that's around the 205, 206 centimeter. I thought he was really strong around the ground. His ruck craft was outstanding. He was kicking goals when he went forward. I think he'd be a really nice pickup here, and certainly not too early for mine for the Crows. They'll get a great player here. North Melbourne. Now, whilst I didn't take a midfielder earlier, I am here. I'm taking one nice and early with their 3 late picks in the first round. Charlie Edwards, saw him late in the year play for Sandy, and he was absolutely outstanding. Really good clearance player. He's got great disposal by foot and hand. And he's obviously really good in the contest too. So he'll be a nice pickup here for North Melbourne before their next 2 picks. So that's the end of the imagery and all of the fun stuff. So I'm just going to whip through them a little bit quicker now to round out the first round, and then I'll go into the second round and the third round. GWS up next. They'll take Riley Hardiman, I believe, a strong running sort of halfback winger. And he's got great disposal, but I think it's his burst of speed over the first sort of 10, 15 meters that puts him into space to really take the game on and then use his elite foot skills. He'll be a great pickup for GWS here. He'll be a really strong, almost gone a little bit late in this draft, I feel. North, trying to fill needs here, and I think a junior developing ruckman, Mitch Edwards, and who's not that far behind Goad, I think will be a tremendous pickup here. He was one of the best leapers at the combine, and he's already at 206 centimeters. He's not going to lose too many taps. He needs a bit of development in the strong room, but once I think he does that in the next 3 or 4 years, he's going to be one of those elite ruckmen in the AFL. One of the better prospects I've seen. Also, I've gone for a key forward here. I really like Archer Reed's versatility. He's 203 centimeters, but he moves really, really well. Watching a final of his last year where he was picking up the ball that was bouncing in front of him and snapping around the corner, kicking goals, laying forward 50 tackles, taking marks on the lead, contested grabs. He's got a lot to his game. He really does. It's probably just the consistency that lets him down. But I think once he goes into that AFL environment and really starts to put it together, North could get a great player here and a really strong key forward at 203 centimeters that could also go into the middle of the park and do a bit of rucking too. So great versatility and I think a good pickup here. Collingwood going for the speed here of Harry Dematia. I think he's a good, solid prospect. And I think he'll have a good, solid AFL career. Great speed. He can play half back, through the middle, half forward. One thing he probably, and by his own admissions, he's probably not the strongest kick at all times. But I think he's got a lot to his game that would really add to Collingwood's list. Adelaide's the long kicking left foot Tasmanian Ari Schoenmaker. I think be a great pick here. You play that sort of third tall rebounding defender with a beautiful left peg on him that will be deliver out of the back half and will really complement the picks that they've taken earlier. St Kilda, I think they're not screaming out for a ruckman, but I think William Green, who can sort of play that, or Will Green that can play the forward ruck role, will be a great pickup for them. They sort of need more of a key. They need a key forward and a ruckman. He's probably more of a ruckman than he is a key forward, but I think he'll be a great pickup. And with only Max Heath sort of on their list as a developing ruckman, I think it'll be a great pickup here for the Saints. Carlton, I think they're just taking next best available. Archie Roberts, outstanding prospect. Seen a fair bit of him over the last couple of years. Really like what he's done this year. His attack off halfback's been outstanding. Beautiful kick of the football. Likes to take the game on. I think he'd be a great prospect for Carlton. That's the end of the first round. So I'll jump now into the second round and fire through them. Not who I'd probably take for West Coast, but I think it sounds like they're pretty interested in Lance Collard. I think he's a great prospect and there's a lot to like about him. I don't personally see first rounds player in him. I think he's a bit more risky than that. I think he's probably 30 plus is where I'd probably have him. But I think West Coast sound like they're pretty into taking him. So I think they'll snap him up here. Geelong will take Diath, highly athletic defender, who I think would be a great pickup there. Carlton will go take Archie Roberts earlier and then pair with who I think would be an amazing pickup for West Coast earlier. But Carlton will take Zane Zakostowski. Was outstanding for Claremont in the finals, playing as a ruckman, so he's got that real athletic profile to him. But watching him play as a key defender for WA, I thought he was really quite strong. And I think he's one that's got a really high ceiling. So he'd be a great pickup there for Carlton. Richmond coming into the draft, they'd be pretty rapt that someone like Angus Hastie was there, attacking half-backer, which I think will be a great pickup there. Gold Coast will round out their draft with matching Will Graham a little bit later here. I think he's a great prospect and another good pickup for them. Brisbane, they're already bid on Gold Coast, Will Graham. They're going to do it again with someone that hasn't been spoken about that much, but Charlie McCormack. Really scrawny, sort of skinny full forward, centre-half forward. He's one that probably needs a lot more time in the weights room, but he's got some real talent. And I think Brisbane will see that, want to get him or make GWS pay for him. So I think GWS will be silly not to match someone like that there. But don't be, he's certainly, this is around his range for me. I think he's going to be an outstanding prospect and one in many years that everyone will be like, oh, how did he go so late in the draft? Cohen Sanchez, I think, will end up at the Lions. Crafty small forward is, I think, where he's going to play. He's got a whole bag of tricks, and he'll make you pay when he's got ball in hand. He's a great little player. One of the ones that got WA going at stages, and probably one of their better players. But I thought he's probably second, if not third, to Daniel Curtin for WA. I thought he's a really good prospect this year. Essendon are going to get in before the Doggies can match on Lual. He'll be a great defensive player for them and one that can really shut down on a player for them and provide some rebound too. Collingwood would be pretty happy that Phoenix Gothard, some forward versatility there and a bit of X factor down forward. Freo just entering the draft will be wrapped at their man's here. Sean Manor had 28 disposals and 6 goals in the VFL Grand Final and looks to be a real prospect. So I think Fremantle will take the first overager in this draft. Bombers jumping back in, and I think Jack DeLeon is someone that would be a nice fit. Almost feels really silly that he's going this late in the draft. He's got some immense talent. Some of the goals that he kicked for South Australia are just outstanding. So the Bombers would be absolutely rapt to get a guy like this this late in the draft. Probably start his career playing off half forward. He's another one that probably needs a little bit of time in the strong room to really develop his body before he really plays AFL footy. But boy, does he have the talent. Eagles sound like they're quite into Ashton Moore, so I could see them taking someone like this based on his ability and what he showed last year. Coming into the year, I had massive raps on him. I thought he was an outstanding prospect. But there is mention about a hip complaint, and he probably didn't quite have the year he wanted this year. And there's some other rumours about him, but I think he's one that, yeah, probably just didn't have the year he wanted to, and still has something really strong to show at AFL level. So could be a really good pickup here. Brisbane take Joel Freyer, an outstanding tall wingman with some real skills, strong overhead, beautiful kick, good runner. He's one of those guys that sort of I think projects as like a bit of a Blake Acres type. So I think he'd be a great pickup here this late in the draft for Brizzy. Cooper Simpson, probably one of my favourites, little small, speedy, good kicking, skilled half-forward midfielder. Another great pickup here, I think, late in the draft for St Kilda. Will Dawson's one of those, I think, like project key defenders. I think he'll be a good prospect if he goes to a club like Richmond where they've really got their shit together. I think he's a prospect that they could polish that gem and turn him into a really nice key defender for them. So I think it's a good pickup here late. Logan Morris, a bit of an undersized, plays like a key forward though. I think he could be quite a handy third ball forward for Melbourne, and a great pickup again this late in the draft. Moving into the third round, I've got Fremantle taking Will Brown. Was best on ground for Sandy Dragons in the grand final. Had a fantastic game with 3 goals and 18 disposals. He'll be a really nice sort of third tall half forward for Freo. George Stevens, there's a lot I like about this guy's game, but I'm always wary of those man-childs that are playing under 18s. So I've got him a little bit later in the draft, but he could be a really polished, nice mid-sized defender or midfield for Brisbane here. Doggies have still got some picks left over from the Crofts bid, and I think Nathan Flacktides will be a nice pickup here. His speed out of the defence and his ball use is really good. He's prone to he'll take the game on a little bit too much and sort of turn the ball over when he runs into trouble, but he's got some real nice assets when he does get on the run and he's taking the game on and gets out of defence. But he could be a really nice steal this late in the draft. I'm a big fan of the next guy for Hawthorn, Will Lorenz. I think he's a really nice and projects as a wingman, I think, in the AFL. I thought he was probably one of Vic Metro's better players and hasn't been talked about enough. I think it's almost strange that he's going this late in the draft for me. His grandfather did play for the Hawks, Graham Arthur, so I think it'll be a nice fit for him here later in the draft. And I think they'll get a really good prospect. Brisbane are going to take Luke Lloyd, who kicked 19 goals for De La Salle this year. I think those sorts of things show the amount of talent a guy like this has. So again, could be a prospect that if he gets it together at AFL level, could be a really good pickup. Doggies, another small forwards, Lockie Charlson, the take here. I think he'd be a really nice pick. He did kick 8 goals late in the year, playing in the Coates League, so he's got that talent. North Melbourne got one of the better, I forgot the N on there, but Tarkin O'Leary, sorry. He's one of the better runners in this year's draft crop. So I think he'd be a really nice sort of outside winger or half forward type. Clay Hall to West Coast, contested midfielder. He's got a really nice game to him where he runs both ways really hard, good physical contested game about him, can break clear out of a stoppage. It's probably just his kicking that lets him down a little bit, but I think he can play. He's one of those players that go late in the draft will certainly play AFL football. He's got that tenacity about him and one that I think will train really hard and get the most out of himself. Might not necessarily be the most talented player, but he'll certainly play AFL football for what I said before. And then Port Adelaide, I think there's still a really nice prospect left here in Will Patton. I think he's a nice sort of mid-sized defender that provides really good rebound and defensive skills. So I think this late in the draft, I think he's an outstanding prospect for Port Adelaide here if he is still there before that pick. So Port Adelaide certainly not missing out, even though they've traded a lot of their picks for this year. Well, thanks for listening, and I'll be back again next year. If you've got any comments, please leave them in the comment section, and I'll try to answer them all. Again, I sort of feel like it's a good draft class without being an outstanding one, and the evenness, you can see it right through to this last page here. There is real evenness right up until that last pick in Will Patton. I just think there's no anywhere from around 6 or 7 onwards to about 25s normally when you've got some really nice candidates. I think they're just quite even all the way through to the end with just slight increases as you go along, not significant jumps like other draft years. So anyway, we'll see how it plays out. They're just my thoughts on how this might play out. I hope you enjoyed watching, and we'll do it all again next year. Thanks.